Hello, today I'm doing a bit of time management in the garden. I'm Zorab and this is Byther Farm. Before I came out into the garden today, I made a list of some of the jobs I'd like to get done, and here it is. So I wanted to put the netting over the frame that I made for squashes to go over, so I've done that, and here it is. I've finished putting the pea and bean netting going from the ground all the way up, over and down that side. It's on the full length now, and this is a frame that I put up a couple of weeks ago. I'm really pleased. I think it's going to work really well, and I've even been able to start training some of the squash up so it will climb up and over the arch. And I want to weed in the brassica tunnel here, and also this area here, but I'm going to break all these tasks up into bite-sized chunks so it doesn't feel too overwhelming. There's also some other weeding I want to do, and some planting and some seed sowing. So I've got my list, but I'm just going to do them a small piece at a time, have a cup of tea in between if I need to, or if I feel up to it, I'll just move on to the next task. I've got a sack for putting in the weeds that are going to seed, or pernicious perennial weeds, which is basically everything in here. I'll put them in the sack, then tie the top, and I'll leave it tucked under the hedge for a couple of years, and then open it up and be able to use the compost that's in it. And that's what I've been doing with the bags that I tied up a couple of years ago. This year I've been using them, and it's all broken down to a fine black compost, and I've just been using it on beds. So it's a little bit windy, but it's also quite warm. So the coats may go on and off today, but that's how it goes. It is, after all, July, and it's cool enough to be wearing thermal trousers, thermal gloves. So here we go. Let's clear some of this. This soil hasn't really been improved at all. It's pretty heavy clay, and the heavy clay is then over and the heavy clay is over sand and pebbles. So there's a lot of pebbles. They're very smooth stones. There are a lot of areas of the garden in which I'm not bothered about the weeds, but here we've got convolvulus minor, I think it's called. So it's a small bindweed. It's really pretty, and it has a lovely, delicate little pink flower. However, it takes over and it smothers things. And I realise I'm not getting the roots out, I'm just taking the tops off. I'm not using a trowel or a fork in here to lift the weeds, as I actually don't want to disturb the soil at all. I don't want to expose any more weed seeds to the light. I'm hoping that I can quietly weaken it, and taking the top off it on a regular basis. Now, inevitably, it started raining. That rain shower is now over. It was actually quite a downpour. So I hid in the polytunnel for a few minutes, got on with a couple of tasks in there, because I know if I go back into the house before I get much of this done, I'll get stuck into a job in the house, and then I won't get this done. So really my main aim is just to remove any of the weeds that are going to flower, because I don't want them to sow their seeds everywhere. And I'll then come through with a hoe and take out the things like the clover and the bits of grass that are there, just the small ones. And then I'm going to mulch this to try and keep the weed level down, because actually it's just creating more and more work for me, and then I won't need to do it. If I get a mulch down, and prevent those weed seeds from germinating. So yes, what I should have done is put a mulch down as soon as I put in these courgettes and Asturian tree cabbage. Wow, look at this. On the stinging nettles next to me, these are caterpillars of the common peacock butterfly. I'm so pleased. We've been allowing the stinging nettles to grow to support the wildlife population, and here we are with them merrily growing away. I'm delighted. It makes me feel like I am justified for allowing these huge patches of stingers to be everywhere. Every time I come out to do a little bit more, it starts raining again. I feel like the weather is against me on this area here, but I'm going to carry on, even with a little bit of light drizzle. Some of this I'm not putting into bags. It's just literally going straight under the hedgerows. I've been really careful to make sure that I get out any of the bindweed before I hoe, and I'm literally only just hoeing the surface, so I don't want to chop the bindweed into loads of little pieces, so making sure that that is gone. I'm leaving this in. This is it's either a bronze fennel or a dill, and I'm not sure which it is. There was some dill just over there. Well, it's still there. There was some there last year, but the year before that there was some fennel in this area, so it could be either. And I do know it's not a good idea to grow them close together because they will cross-pollinate. But as there's no way of knowing, and I'm more than happy to have some of it. I think it's bronze fennel. I'm happy to have it there. I've uncovered quite a huge ant's nest, so the ants are all busy doing their thing of moving their eggs back into their nest. The ground is so compacted here that actually the ants are quite welcome because they do a really good job of aerating the soil, and obviously as I'm going in between plants I'm trying to be really careful that I don't hoe through the stems of the plants. When you use a hoe, you don't want to be digging down with it, you want to run it along the surface of the soil, and that way it's chopping the top growth off the root, so the roots may grow back but it will certainly be weakened, and the top growth, as long as it's not bindweed or something else that will rejuvenate from small pieces left on the ground, the top growth you can leave on the ground and it will help form a mulch and feed the soil. So the rain has reduced the amount of time I've been able to spend out here today, just because I'm quite happy being in the rain, but the camera's not. So if I was going to show you what I was doing, there was going to be a lot of it was going to be hiding from the rain thing. So I haven't got as much done as I wanted to, but I've kind of got most of this section sorted, and I'm going to go and get some mulch. Going to go and get some mulch and get that down, because what I don't want to do is, now I've tickled the top layer of the soil with the hoe, I don't want those seeds to start germinating. And to mulch this area, I'm using this, which is used poultry bedding. Now this has been in the chicken palace, and it's been sitting now for about 18 months or possibly longer, stacked up, and so it's okay to use on the around plants. Poultry bedding, chicken and turkeys, can be very alkaline and therefore could be a bit of a problem in terms of burning your plants. used duck bedding can go straight onto the ground. It doesn't need to sit and mature. I'm actually going to use the bag at this end and then put the compost on top of it. And I'm putting on a layer about 2 inches thick, which should be plenty to suppress some of those weeds. I'm putting it slightly thinner on top of the bag because obviously the bag will act as a suppressant to block out the light. Now luckily I've got masses of this used chicken bedding, but the next bag is a really big one and it's really heavy. And though I can use it in a wheelbarrow, I actually can't lift the bag to get it into the wheelbarrow. So I'm going to have to wait till Mr. J gets home and ask him to help me lift that into the wheelbarrow, and then I can get the rest of this done. And while I've been weeding and tidying this area, I've just noticed this little plant growing in the pathway. And this is a hawthorn tree. It's very small at the moment, but I don't want it in the path. I would like it in the hedge. So I'm going to lift that. There was a pot lying around here earlier on, so I'll get some compost in here and get the little tree in, and then it can grow on, and when it's large enough I'll add it to the hedge. What I'm hoping is that it hasn't sent its roots too deep down, and that I can take some root with it. I can see it was moving the soil over there, so the roots have gone quite a long way. So I've only got a small amount of root, but hopefully that will be enough to keep it alive. So the weather was against me for much of the day today, and I didn't get many of the jobs done that I really wanted to do. But there are other jobs that need to be done now. They can't wait. And picking some of these cherries on this tree is one of those jobs. We've had a huge cherry crop this year. It has been absolutely incredible. And I've managed to preserve a lot of cherries. So probably somewhere in the region of 50 pounds of cherries or more. And that doesn't include the ones that I've eaten along the way. The little hawthorn tree is potted up and sitting in a shady spot to grow on. We've had some lunch and all of those ordinary domestic things. And so, wherever you are in the world and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a good one. And I also hope you'll join me again next time.